Doreen has talked truly at the level that touches our hearts and the art. I'm afraid I'm down here on the platform level. However, it's the technologies that I'm going to be talking about that are trying to make us, or geoSMART makes us much more powerful as individuals and citizens. It's because of these technologies that are coming up from below, we are more and more empowered wherever we live. For a sustainable environment, more transparent government that'll be going through, and more efficient governments. And basically, they give you the connectedness wherever you happen to be on the planet, with both privacy and security. An example of this for citizen empowerment is, supposing there's a proposal in this downtown area, let's have no cars for 3 blocks and turn it into a shopping mall. And you can imagine the conversations among the citizenry who can then move this forward to the people. If it's more accessible, we better get together and discuss this among the other shop owners. But, are people going to like this? On the other hand, maybe I'm going to lose business on this. Whoops. It's the Internet of Things, which is a popular buzzword. This is really the way the government has their pulse and how they're feeling, what's happening in the areas they're responsible for and the areas that we want them to be responsible for. How is the environment doing, the air pollution, the weather, etc., as well as the transportation world where you're dealing with buses, traffic flow, car routing, etc., but then taking care when there's troubles, like in the earthquakes, radiation. Do we have a grid that's keeping a track on this, as well as the far side of society, which is the waste management, water, sewer. All of this is things that are now able to be done and tracked by the citizens. This lets us lead into sustainable urbanization. As Doreen pointed out, more and more people are moving into the cities. How can we do this in a sustainable fashion? This is being studied in many places. The requirements are being defined again, so this can be implemented, and we as citizens end up with a smarter life. Part of what's asked for, and surely in my country, and I suspect in most countries, transparency in government. Where the accountability, do we have clear legislation? Surely where I'm from, the terror the citizens see is a bill 2 inches thick with 2,000 pages shows up on Congress's desk and says, we're voting tomorrow. And we're saying, we know you didn't read that. And we're trying to get laws passed that say 2 weeks. It's got to be 2 weeks on the internet. So the rest of us can look at this and say, what is this? We have access through the internet now, thanks to the infrastructure. Let's just change the policies of the government's answer to us on this matter. That's part of the way, thing called e-democracy, basically in fighting corruption. The freedom of information to get this information as it's being decided gives you more open politics, open policies, and trust. And then, at the same time, protecting privacy and security, which I'll touch on near the end. That is also infrastructure that we all need so that we can then be more empowered. Governments need to be more inclusive of us, inclusiveness of you. In many surveys through the United Nations and others, over 86%, and that gives you a nice big number, they want the government to make it convenient. So when we can talk to them, not when they happen to have their offices open. I'm fortunate to have a day job, as are most of us. My government's only open 8 to 4 in my town. I'm supposed to be at work in 8 to 4. However, the advancement of technology meant I could finally, in the last 2 years, re-register my car online. It's the same car I've owned for 10 years. I'm getting my money's worth out of it. So finally, I could fill it out online. They mail me my sticker. I put on my license plate, and now I'm legal. Thank you, to the technology gods. More of that is needed, and this is where improving our quality of life. There's networks all around us that that we're working on. The mobility networks, basically in the transportation world. The human networks in the health, education, besides our friends and family where we're familiar with Facebook, mastering all of these and having the technology is making us more powerful. The same thing on the grid side, both in the utilities as well as communication networks. Because of geotechnologies, where people in this room are the experts in the world. We can measure and expect all of these using, geospatial technology as well as the sensors on them, making this more sustainable so they can go on autopilot while we're actually living our lives. So this is where the government, where we want them in control of things, we're planning. You're moving a city. As people are moving in, how are you going to start planning for the next area that's going to have actually housing of some nature on it? Maintenance of the parks, as well as the metropolitan and the transportation systems. This is all tracked using geoSMART technologies and now can be brought forward into the government, giving us the power to keep an eye on what is happening on the government. We can track this online now when it's put into the cloud, which I'll come up to. As an example, I think everybody in the room probably has run into this one. A road is blocked for repair. Okay. What if you live on that road? What if your business is on that road? How do you talk to the government? The information that is then sent up and said, would you answer these questions? They can at least now, and we've got this through one place I live, on the town website, you can go and check and say, what's happening? Can you answer these questions for me? This is the power that is coming through to us. Well, guess what? This leads into big data. There's long lists of things here that you can gradually try to read through to feed all of those together. How do you gather this data? How do you try to understand it and then share it, make it interpretable? It's either a huge amount of interoperability or you get into semantics so that there's ontologies, where you can understand this section of it versus that section and speak the same language to each other. All of these are technologies that are being built and available now. So this, as speaking as an infrastructure company, this is where government infrastructure is needing all of these. The event processing, high-speed, real-time event handling by government applications coming in and then coming back out to the citizenry, integration of all these capabilities, and then lots of different kinds of data. It's not just big data, it's multimedia data. You've got to master this, modify the metadata as needed so you can interpret this in many ways, both structured data and unstructured data, and do this in a secure manner. Then you manage to store this somewhere. In the country I'm in, we have over 2,000 federal data centers. They're trying to shrink it down by 800 within 5 years. Yet that makes, where are we going to put these? But again, with that many, we almost have to try to build more dams to have enough hydroelectric power to power these things, as somebody else on the panel knows quite well, as the amount of power. But again, this improves the infrastructure, so then they're available to all of the citizenry. Then you tune it, get it ready, and then in the deployment. And this is where the governments are basically moving to the cloud, because that provides you the capabilities to access the connect information. We're almost everybody walking around with one of these. You can connect to your information about your government or others around the planet, on the cloud, going from a technical basis of traditional silos, consolidate them, private cloud for sections of governments, as well as what's out on the public cloud, such as the Amazon cloud, the Google cloud, many of the other clouds that are available. This is a function, that's a government policy decision. What do you put out in public? What has to be kept within the government area? Why is that? Because you get into the security question. How can you secure database clouds? Again, basically from the discovery of the information, scanning it, looking at for basically types of break-ins that go through that. And sometimes I have to fess up, I might come from a government that has done some of this stuff. The vulnerability scan, as well as patching this to guarantee the hacks and the break-ins can't happen again. Fortunately, in the infrastructure world, companies such as mine and others are providing this all available so that this is not a future dream. These are technologies that are actually available now. There's different ways to enforce policies so that basically the first person know your financial results or someone's healthcare situation or others is not the database administrator. That areas can be blocked and encrypted, but only by those with authorized need to know. And that's my message. I kept it brief because we have a list of distinguished panels here. Thank you.